So I've been following with some interest a debate between Jericho Movie and Veritas 48, in which Jericho Movie was questioning why this person would put up philosophical arguments for God, but but arguments for Jesus would be either out of faith or be historical, as in his defense of the historicity of the resurrection. Um, and Jericho wanted to know why he wasn't putting up a philosophical argument for Jesus. Um, it kind of brought up for me the question of what is the role of philosophy. Um, and I find that, a lot of my videos tend to be about either philosophy, theology, or economics. Yeah, and so those are my three. And so to some extent, I tell myself, okay, I'm going to make a theological video, or no, I'm going to make an economic video. But to me, it's almost not really different things. It's sort of, um, in a sense, I think of philosophy as sort of the over discipline, the meta discipline, upon which other disciplines are founded. Um, every discipline, from economics to sociology to even the hard sciences, has a philosophical underpinning, a metaphysics, a certain presumption, or a certain epistemology, certain presumptions, um, and so in a sense they're all philosophical in a certain way. Um, and I think that they would all be served to recognize their philosophical underpinnings and realize the sort of some of the methodological assumptions they make, so as not to turn them into metaphysical assumptions per se, which I think is the mistake that scientific materialism does. Is it turns the methodological assumptions of science into metaphysical assumptions. Um, but I think the distinction between philosophy and non-philosophy, I think, and non-philosophy was not always as clear as it is now. I mean, Aristotle wrote on subjects as varied as biology, economics, and physics. There's all kinds of different disciplines that are now considered separate. Um, and actually this continued on to very in the very recent times. And actually some of the major works of economics were written by philosophers. In fact, one book I got for Christmas is this thick puppy. It you may not be able to read it. It says Principles of Political Economy with some of their applications to social philosophy by John Stuart Mill. You may know John Stuart Mill as one of the founders, along with Jeremy Bentham, of utilitarianism. But people don't realize he was also a great economist, and that book of his was the principal textbook in economics up until Alfred Marshall published one that became more popular. Um, and so I think, to some extent, I wish other disciplines would learn to be philosophical, but I also think that philosophers ought to study other subjects, um, in order to inform their philosophy. And this has happened particularly with philosophy of mind, where if you have some sort of philosophy of mind, you better know a thing or two about neuroscience, and so those who are considered serious philosophers of mind, whether they be eliminativists like Dennett, emergentists like John Searle, or even panpsychists like David Chalmers. They all have to know their stuff about neuroscience because it's yielding results that philosophy will have to deal with. And clearly, the fact that they all have their disagreements on philosophy of mind indicates that neuroscience has not answered certain questions about consciousness, but it is revealing some things that need to be taken into account. And so I think philosophy can't simply ignore history. It can't ignore language. In fact, I think um, in many ways philosophy is kind of rediscovering certain aspects of human consciousness. Like one of the major trends in the 20th century was philosophy of language. Sort of starting with Wittgenstein, going from there, and people realizing that you can't just take language for granted. You have to understand the sort of linguistic matrix in which we're situated. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, in college, I briefly considered a philosophy major before settling on sociology. But when we studied some of the social theorists from Marx, Weber, and Durkheim, who were philosophers essentially. They had their social theories about how society operated, and that's how. And they were their philosophies ended up influencing later research, and that's the thing. And so philosophy can actually uh, lead to more empirical inquiry, uh, and and so I think philosophy ought uh, philosophy shouldn't know any boundaries. Essentially, the duty of a philosopher is to investigate every every discipline of human experience, and and there should not be any subject that philosophy does not take into its consideration. Um, so I'll leave it there. Peace.